Welcome to Average Joe's Gym's Home Projects, where we do projects and maintenance at home that even an average Joe can accomplish. In today's episode, we're going to refurbish this garden workbench that we've needed to replace for several years. So the only thing that really needs replacement is this worktop. It's starting to rot out because the paint peeled off years ago. I started with just a regular piece of plywood. Once I measured the dimensions and made the lines, I made my cuts with this circular saw. As you get to the end of a cut like this, make sure you maintain control of the saw, because the end of the wood's going to fall and it's easy to drop the saw at the end of this. The most time-consuming and frustrating part of this project was dismantling the old tabletop. I can't tell you how many screws were in this thing. The people who owned the home before us and built it did a great job with the framing and making sure it would hold together. But it's definitely not an easy process when you're trying to work around your gas meter as well as all your rabbit stuff that your wife has for her pet rabbits. This next part, I highly suggest you find someone else to give you a hand anytime you have to lift a cast iron sink. I got it myself, but that thing probably weighs close to 90 pounds. I had a few screws break off when I was trying to remove them, but that's nothing a crowbar and a little bit of leverage can't take care of. I mentioned earlier that the framing was still in pretty good shape. I did, however, add a few screws just to make it a little stronger. Now that we've got the old bench top off, we can bring in the new ones and check everything out. Everything looks good, but I still need to cut the hole for the sink to fit into, so I traced it from underneath using a pencil where the old hole was. I didn't video it, but I just drilled 4 holes in each corner of where the sink's going to be. That way I can start my jigsaw cuts from the holes. So some of you might be asking, why do you need a sink in your bench top if you don't even have water or a drain hooked up to it? Our plan was just to use that bucket right there to catch the water if we needed to rinse something off, and then we could dump them in our garden and save a little water. Now it's a time to attach the bench top onto the framing and make it permanent. I decided to keep the wood framing for the sink. It's not in that bad a shape, and it's going to be outside anyways, and it's going to get ruined over time. Once again, I highly recommend you get a little help anytime you're lifting a cast iron sink. They're just really heavy, and you can risk hurting your back in an awkward position. Still, I got it in there without any debilitating injuries, and now it's time to get the screws in and make it permanent.
You know, it's picturing your butt. Been 2 minutes already.
I got a little help from this one from my youngest son, who likes to apprentice on some of my projects every once in a while. We decided to add these self-adhesive vinyl tiles to the bench top. They'll help with waterproofing, and we had a bunch left over after the floor of our garage was finished. We have since discovered that you might want to put a layer of primer or some other type of paint over the top of raw wood. The adhesive on the back of these tiles doesn't like to stick to it too well, but we made it work. This project became a family affair as my daughter decided to help out my wife with the tile placement. Tiles can be cut with a box cutter or razor blade, but it's not as easy as it looks. You have to really saw them to get them off. Even my oldest son got in on the action and helped Mom out with the tile placement. So here I decided to get a little industrious. The thought of cutting all those tiles with a box cutter didn't appeal to me, so I got my Sawzall out and used a metal blade to cut down the edge of the tabletop to finish the job. So here it is, the completed, refurbished garden bench top. If you enjoyed this project, please check out our other projects on Average Joe's Gym's home projects, and like and subscribe for future projects.